This is In Conversations with Chana. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. Let us know where you are joining us from. We are here tonight with an incredible couple. We're here with Rabbi Ephraim and Nechama Simon. Thank you for joining us.
Sure, our pleasure.
Rabbi Simon and his wife Nechama are shluchim of Bergen County in Teaneck. And they're here for an incredible reason. Rabbi Simon is a double donor. He has donated his kidney as well as a piece of his liver. And we're going to speak to him tonight about what exactly motivated him to do this and what does it take to be an organ donor. But before we start, I see we have some people joining us. Hello from Chicago, Michigan. We have people here joining us. Thank you for joining us. Welcome, welcome. We're here tonight again. This is In Conversations with Chana. Hello from Caraco. Hello. You can post your comments or questions on the side. I'll be looking at them and I'll be presenting them to Rabbi and Mrs. Simon as we go along. But thank you for joining us. We're here in Conversations with Chana. I'm Chana Weisberg. I'm here with Rabbi Ephraim Simon and Nechama Simon, who are joining us to tell us about their incredible journey. So, Rabbi Simon, let's start with you.
Sure.
Tell us a little about what it was. First of all, you are a kidney donor as well as a liver donor, right?
Right.
Okay,
Correct.
So how long ago did this all happen? When did this happen?
So I donated my kidney in 2009, and then 9 years later, in the end of 2018, is when I donated a third of my liver.
Wow. Are there many people who donate kidneys and liver?
That's a good question, actually. I think there are more now than when I did it. I can't remember what they told me, but there were not a lot of dual donors. When I wanted to donate my liver, in fact, I could not find a hospital that would accept me as a liver donor because I had already donated my kidney. I actually reached out to every local hospital here in New Jersey, in New York City, and none of them would accept me. That has changed now. Now they do accept dual donors now, some of the hospitals in New York City, but in 2018, nobody would accept me as a dual donor. No, so there were very few places that would actually do the second donation. So there are very few people who have actually done it. So I don't know the exact numbers, but I think when I had done it, I think it was
5.
Was it? I don't remember. I thought it was 40, but I don't remember now. I don't remember. It was a small number.
And I could just add, he had to be extremely determined to do it. He really was determined to do it because every time he would reach out to a hospital to try to do it, he would hit a brick wall. He literally he called the hospitals around the country till he found that the Cleveland Clinic would consider him. Like nobody else would consider him as a donor because he donated his kidney, but Cleveland Clinic was willing to consider him, and ultimately that is where the donation occurred.
Wow. Is it because there's a bigger risk to donate twice?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is, it's a bigger risk, but the reality is, as long as the donor is healthy, the two systems really don't have what to do with one another. So the Cleveland Clinic had no issue whatsoever, but I think it was more that the hospitals themselves didn't want to take that risk, and the Cleveland Clinic was willing to do so. So, I mean, theoretically, when you're talking about donating a liver, there's a possibility of a lot of blood loss. And so therefore having only one kidney could be problematic in such a scenario, but which is why most of the hospitals wouldn't do it. But thank God the Cleveland Clinic was willing to do it, as long as I passed a lot of, obviously a battery of tests to make sure I was in the proper health to be able to do so. So the Cleveland Clinic was willing to do it, and as we see, everything turned out great.
It's always easy in the aftermath, right? I didn't even know that you could donate a liver until like recently. It's actually that you're donating a part of your liver and it grows back, right? Because you
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. So Nechama said that you had to like basically bang on the hospital doors to do it.
That's literally what I had to do. Once I really wanted to do this, and at that time I was 50 years old. It was 3 years ago. Yeah, I was 50 years old, and I felt like if I don't do it soon, I'm going to age out. And I really, really, because of the experience of donating my kidney, and that was such an amazing experience, I really wanted to do it again. So I literally had to find a recipient, which wasn't easy, believe it or not. I had to find a recipient, and then I had to find a hospital that would be willing to accept a dual donor. So it was a lot of phone calls and a lot of searching, and I just worked really hard to be able to find the recipient and the hospital to be willing to do so.
Wow.
It meant a lot to me to be able to do it, and
so
it was a great experience.
Like walk
go ahead.
a little through this, like what was going through your mind that you wanted. I mean, I can relate a little bit to somebody like who's begging me to donate something of mine, to donate an organ. Maybe that I would be okay with it, but to actually actively look for somebody to donate it to and to really bang down the doors when they don't even want you to, like what was going through your mind? What made you so motivated to tell us a little about what goes on in the mindset of a person who donates and donates twice?
Yeah, so in order to really understand my mindset, you really have to go back to the beginning into my kidney donation. And so if I could tell that story a little bit, how that came about, and then that will sort of lead into my liver donation, because you really can't separate one from the other. When I was donating my kidney in 2009, this was never something that was on my plate at all. I had never even thought about it. I never thought that was something I could do. I had heard about kidney donation, but I never thought that it was something for me. I never thought that was something that I could do. That was something that, wow, I mean, somebody to do that must be a great tzaddik or something like that, to be able to donate, go through an operation like that. That's what I thought. And so it was never anything that was, I had planned on doing or I thought about doing. And then I received an email about a 12-year-old girl who needed a kidney. And I had received other emails previously. There's a woman in Borough Park. Her name is Chaya Lipschitz, and she dedicates her entire life to finding kidney matches for people in need of kidneys. So she would send out these emails to the various Jewish communities throughout the world, including my own community in Teaneck, New Jersey. And I would see her emails about once a month or once every few months. And again, I would see the emails, and it was never anything I thought I could do. But then when I saw the email about this 12-year-old girl, I'm a father of 9. And at that time, I had a 13-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old daughter. And that 12-year-old girl could have been mine. And so I had no idea what kidney donation entailed. I knew nothing about it. I thought at that time that it was like bone marrow. There's a 1 in a million chance. They have these bone marrow drives because it's like a 1 in a million chance or even more that you'll match. So I figured for a 12-year-old girl, I could at least offer to test to see if I match. And again, I thought it would be like a 1 in a million type of match. So I called the number on that email, and I left her a message that I saw your email about the 12-year-old girl, and I would like to test for her. And a few hours later, I'll never forget this because it's so in my mind. This was way back, 10 years ago. But it was as if it happened yesterday. I was a few hours later after I made that phone call. I'll never forget. I was walking out of the Chabad house, and she returned my call. And she said, Rabbi Simon, she said, I just want to tell you 2 things just to make sure we're on the same page. She said, we're talking about donating a kidney, not donating blood, right? And I said, no, I understand that. And she said, without me saying anything, she said, the other thing is, it's not like bone marrow. It's a very easy match. If you have the same blood type, there's a very good chance you're going to match. And I knew I did have the same blood type from the email. I remember thinking then, like, what did I just get myself into? So I said, okay, let me go
Okay,
home.
now you sound a little bit more normal, okay?
Yeah, those were in the days when I was more normal, but I was afraid of this. So I said, let me go home and speak to my wife, and I'll get back to you. And so I came home and I told my wife about this email. And my wife is really the hero behind all of this because she was
Yeah, Nechama,
so.
what was your reaction? I mean, you're a mother of 9, you have 9 children, you have young children. Your husband tells you he wants to donate an organ. How do you feel?
I was a little taken by surprise because it was not something we'd ever thought about or talked about or anything when it first came up. But it was something that he wanted to do, and I thought, let's figure out if it's something that is shaykh, meaning let's do some research, figure out what it entails, find out whatever we need to know to make a decision, and then we'll decide together.
So this is what we did. We actually, that night, we spent the many hours researching on the internet kidney donation. And what we found out was that the surgery is laparoscopic. The risks are extremely, extremely infinitesimal, just like anytime you go under general anesthesia. A human being has 4 times the amount of kidney function they need. So with both kidneys, so even with one kidney, you have double the amount of kidney function that you need. You could live a long, healthy life with just one kidney. And once we did all of that research, that solidified it. I felt like 2 things. I felt I could save this girl's life, which was the most important thing. And the other thing that really meant a lot to me was that I speak to my children all the time as Chabad Shluchim. I speak to my children all the time about why we are on Shluchus, what our lives are not just here for ourselves, but we're meant to serve our fellow man, and we're meant to be here for others, and we're meant to give to others and sacrifice for others, and that our lives should be a source of love and light and healing for the lives of others. And here I had an opportunity not just to lecture them, but to actually live up to the words that I say. And we know as parents, our children listen much more to how we behave than the lectures that we say. In a way, a parent's greatest lecture is the way they live their lives. And here I had an opportunity to be this living example of everything that I preach to my children and to my community, but that's, a whole other story. So therefore, once we did the research and we saw that it was really, the risks were so low, and the rewards of saving this girl's life and being this living example to my children for the values that we believe in, that sort of flipped my switch, and I really wanted to do this. Mm-hmm. And so I called her back the next day, and she told me, somebody else stepped in front of you to donate to this girl.
Oh, wow.
So at that time, my wife was relieved. Okay,
yeah,
we did the right thing. Right, we said yes, we did the right thing, exactly. But someone else did it. So
exactly, all the best thing, the best result.
We said yes. We were like, yay, we got the brownie points.
But I felt disappointed, and I was trying to, even within myself, why am I disappointed? 24 hours ago, this wasn't even on my mind to ever think about doing. And here, 24 hours later, I lost the opportunity. And I felt like, again, the opportunity to, once I had done the research and my switch was flipped, I just wanted to do this. So I told her, at that time I told her, if there's any other children who need, please call me. So she didn't hear the word children. So she called me back a few months later. For a mother of 2 who needed. And she had very high antibodies, and she was having a hard time finding a match. And would I go and test for her? So, okay, it's not a child, but it's a mother. It's a mother of 2. It's somebody's mother. So I said, yes, I'll go test for her. So I went to test for her, and I did not match. Even though it's an easy match, but she had very high antibodies, I did not match. So then she called me back a few months later, and she said, there's a single Israeli man in the hospital in New York City who needs, would you test for him? So at this point, it's not a child, it's not a mother, but at this point, I felt like once I'm willing to do this, I need to be willing to do it for anybody who needs. I don't want to choose this one, yes, that one, no. I just want to do this. So I went to go test for him, And again, I didn't match. So now I'm thinking, I can't give my kidney away. So I kept calling her and asking her, is there anyone else who needs? Anyone else who needs? Eventually, she called me again. And she said,
you think that, wait, maybe there's just a message here? Maybe it's like...
The message is, the message is keep trying and you'll succeed eventually. That's what I took the message to be. So she asked, she said there's a Satmar Chassid from Williamsburg who's a father of 10. And would I consider donating to him? He's a father of 10. I'm a father of 9. Mm-hmm. So I went to test for him. And I did not hear anything back for the longest time. Usually I heard back within a few days. A week went by, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I called the hospital and said, what happened? Am I a match to him? Am I not a match? They said, we'll get back to you. And I'll never forget this. This was Erev Pesach. And I'm a Chabad rabbi, Erev Pesach. I'm preparing our community Seder, and I'm running back from the store with romaine lettuce and horseradish and seltzer. We're setting up the table. And I get a call from Cornell, the hospital in New York City. Rabbi Simon, you're a match.
Oh, wow.
I just remember that call was one of the happiest phone calls I ever received, that I could do this. I can absolutely do this. And I could save this man's life, be a living example to my children. And at that time, they don't tell the recipient that he has a match. In fact, they don't tell him until I go through a myriad of tests and get all the way to the end, because this way they allow the donor to back out at any time, mm-hmm. and without the recipient becoming disappointed or etc. But I knew I was not backing out, and I had no idea who the recipient was. But I knew this Chaya Lipschitz, the one who made the match, she did know who the recipient was, and so I called her and I said, "Listen, the hospital just called me. It's Erev Pesach. Please let them know they have a match, because I'm not going to back out. I know I'm not going to back out. So let them know. Let them go into Pesach knowing that everything's going to be okay." Because he was very, very, very sick. And, however much time he had left, I don't know, but he was very, very, very sick. So I wanted to give them that message. And she was able to get a hold of him. And that I ended up donating to him in August we had to set the date because he had a wedding and I had my summer camp that we were running. And so we set the date right after my summer camp, after his wedding, which was, I think, August 23rd, maybe. And it was sometime in the end of August of 2009. And we did the donation then. And that was it was such an incredible experience on so many different levels. To see this man going from being so sick to being completely healthy. It was unbelievable. It's like, this is Hashem's miracles. That here you could, sometimes you have somebody who, God forbid, is so ill, and there's nothing they could do medically. And here's a situation where this man is so ill, gravely ill, but there is something they can do medically. They just need somebody to step up and donate an organ, and he'll be healthy. Because other than this issue, he's completely healthy. But this issue is causing him to be gravely ill. So to see him go from just such illness to the picture of health.
I guess it's just like
right after the donation, he said he remember for the donation when he was in the hospital, like that day, with all the toxins in his body and everything, because his kidney wasn't able to cleanse it, his vision was very, very weak. Immediately after this, so he said he couldn't even see the board where they write, in the hospital room, they have a board where they write the name of the doctor and the nurse, etc. He couldn't see it. Wow. Immediately following the surgery, as soon as he woke up, even that cleared up immediately. He could see that.
Wow.
That was amazing.
Wow.
So that experience to see.
I guess it's just like a real change of mindset. Like normally people are thinking about myself and what if something goes wrong, and what if I might need it in the future, or what if, one.
Yeah.
Like, we're always thinking about ourselves. So here you were it seems like it's a complete flip where you were just thinking about this individual and how much his life will be impacted by what you were doing.
I mean, the truth is, this is where the teachings of Chassidus and the teachings of the Lubavitcher Rebbe come to play in my life. I mean, this is what Chassidus teaches us, that Avos Yisrael applies across the board to everybody. I mean, I once spoke to a group of teenagers, and one of the teenagers asked me this question: how can you do this for a perfect stranger? How can you put yourself at risk for a perfect stranger? And I explained to that group that, listen, we all have a small circle of people that we would do this for, right? I mean, if this were our child, we would do that. If this were our parent, we would do this. Our sibling, we would do this. But Chassidus teaches us that we are just as much connected to each other as we are to our physical siblings, because we all have one Father in heaven, Hashem. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, we are all children of Hashem. We are all spiritual siblings, if you will. And, I feel very strongly that the teachings of Chassidus aren't meant to just be theoretical teachings, but we're meant to apply them in our own lives, in our own, in our day-to-day lives. So I really just applied those teachings, and I just broadened my circle to include everybody.
Wow. And I find it interesting, though, because it was like it became personalized when you heard that it was a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just think, to just give to somebody, we don't look at people as a person, it's a number, or it's somebody out there. But it became so personal when it was a 12-year-old. That
as a father, that touched my heart in a way that, yes, in a way that nothing else really did. And
once it became personalized, it was something that you could apply to anybody. So that was
exactly what happened. That's exactly what
happened. I interrupted you.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Once that flip was switched and that awareness was made that this is a possibility, he could do something to save somebody's life. Literally, that was it. There was no going back.
Wow.
So that experience was so, getting back to the original question, which is my liver donation, that experience was so powerful to me and so profound, and it affected my children. I mean, my children were so affected by it.
What was their reaction to it? Like, how did they feel? Were they scared?
They were they were a little too young to be scared. I think they were just very, very proud. We called them in after I finished all of my testing and I was accepted to be a donor. My wife and I called them in, and we had a family meeting. And we explained that there's a man who's very sick, but there's something that can be done, and he can be healthy, and he has 10 children. And that something is he needs a kidney. And so this is not just my donation to him, but this is our family's donation to their family. Our family is helping their family, and all of us are in this together. And they were very, very proud and very, they were more happy and proud than anything else, than scared. They were too young to be scared to realize the risk. And again, the risks were so infinitesimal. And again, everything in life, there's risk reward. And every time we leave our front door, every time we get into a car, we take a risk. Every time we get into a plane, we walk down the street, we cross the street, we take a risk. But we weigh the rewards of living our lives outweigh the infinitesimal risk of getting into a car or crossing the street, etc. So I felt the same thing here. I felt the risks were so small and the rewards were so great to save a life, to be a living example to my children. And what ended up happening, the rewards ended up being even greater. Because what happened was, originally, I was not going to tell my congregation, because I didn't want people to think, oh, Rabbi Simon is so, this or that he donated a kidney. I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't want anyone to get the wrong idea that I was some kind of, spiritual anything. It was much more, I had my own reasons why I wanted to do this, primarily, to save a life, but also to be a living example to my children. It wasn't I'm no great tzaddik or anything like that. If I was, I would have done it, I would have been affected by, the emails before the 12-year-old girl. So I didn't want anyone to get the wrong idea about me. I wasn't going to tell my congregation. And I told my wife, I'm not going to tell anybody. And my wife said, no, that's not correct. You need to tell your congregation. I was going to tell them I'm going on vacation for a few weeks. And my wife said, no, they're not going to believe you. Number one, you've been a shliach. I mean, at that time, for how long? 20 years. You've never been on vacation for a few weeks, ever. No one's ever going to believe that, number one. And number two, if you have the opportunity to inspire others in the way that you were inspired, then you shouldn't hold that back from people. And of course, my wife is always correct, and she was correct there as well. And so I took her advice. And I told my congregation.
Wait, Nechama, did you have any hesitation? Did you have any worry as a mother, as a wife?
I'm more of the like what if kind of person. So
Yeah.
it required a lot of working on myself to like catch up to where he was.
Wow. I mean, I'm also one of these what if people. So I always like imagine the worst case scenario, especially when it comes to somebody who I love, like a husband or a child. You know, that's when your protectiveness as a woman comes out. So how did you deal with that?
There were two things. Number one, I saw that he really wanted to do this. And when your spouse really wants to do something, it's, I don't know, it's all about shalom bayis, right? To be supportive. So that was probably the main thing. And then the other thing was also the amazing, I consider myself a partner. I'm not being cut open or anything, but definitely with my support, we could save somebody's life. It's incredible.
Wow.
So,
and again,
I try to focus on that rather than, oh my gosh, what if?
And that operation, it sounds bigger than it is. It's laparoscopic. Like the incision to that operation is literally like that big. It's like, it's a laparoscopic operation. That means they don't cut you open. It's a very small incision. The risks are so small. Once we did the research, I think we both felt, a little, better about it and not as concerned. And
on the other hand,
what ended up happening,
the liver is not just like
yeah,
a little bit more serious.
that was a whole, yeah, that was a whole different operation and a whole different recovery. But I'll get there in 1 second. But I just want to mention one thing because I think this is going on Chabad.org, and Chabad.org played a very big part in what happened after the surgery. After that surgery, one of my shul people, after I announced it to my shul, and I think after the surgery had taken place, one of my shul people sent it to Chabad.org, and they published the story. And
did all your congregants, did all your shul people feel supportive of this, of what you were doing? They did.
Yes,
really.
Yes, they were incredibly supportive. Did
your extended family? I don't know if you have parents still alive. Did they?
My mother is a Jewish mother, and she wasn't thrilled.
I can imagine.
My mother was not thrilled. My mother was not thrilled.
Right.
Oh, honey, don't do that. My mother was not thrilled. The rest of my family was okay. My mother was not thrilled. But eventually my mother came around, and now obviously she's very proud. But at that time, I would say she was less than thrilled, my mother. Right. But what ended up happening, Chabad.org published this story, and it ended up going viral on a bunch of different websites. And people all over the world were inspired from this story. Mm-hmm. And I started getting emails and phone calls from people, including fellow Chabad shluchim, who wanted to donate their kidney and did donate their kidney. And I lost track of how many people told me they donated because they were inspired by my story and from the Chabad.org story that ended up going viral on all kinds of websites all over the world. But at last count, it was somewhere between 30 and 40 and it ended up being, it was more than that. I just stopped keeping track of it. So that had such a powerful effect on me. We know, and Judaism teaches us, that every action that we do creates an energy and a ripple effect, and we don't even see the ripples to the actions that we do. But here I've actually merited to see some of the ripples and some of the effects. And that had such a profound effect on me that I wanted to do this again. But I only have one kidney. I can't donate my last kidney. So what could I do? And I started researching, and that's where I found out I could donate a liver. And that's where the liver, you asked me what my motivation for the liver, donation was. So that's where we ended up going all the way back to the kidney. That was really, I wanted that experience again. And so that's why I reached, now, number one, how do I find the liver recipient? I started Googling. I started trying to find people on the internet. I can't even tell you. I reached out. So I found people who needed a liver on the internet, and I would reach out to them and say, I'm willing to donate. And the roadblock became, as we mentioned before, no hospital would accept me as a liver donor. And I reached back out to Chaya Lipschitz, the woman who made my kidney match. And I said, listen, I know you do kidneys, but you have this incredible network of emails that you send all over the world. There's got to be somebody who needs a liver. And so she sent to her emails. She has a liver donor, O positive, which means, universal donor. I could donate to any blood type. I have she sends out an email. I have somebody willing to donate their liver. Does anybody need? She got one response. And
why is it not common to
it's not as common. The need isn't as common. I mean, it's out there, but it's not as common as the need for kidney. So she got one response, and she had found out as well that, because I had told her every hospital won't accept me, she had found out the Cleveland Clinic would accept me. And so I called the Cleveland Clinic. They, in fact, would accept me if I would pass all the tests. And this person who responded was actually, he was from New York, but he was registered as well in the Cleveland Clinic. Perfect.
Wow, amazing.
So I went to Cleveland. I flew to Cleveland on my own dime. I paid for my own flight and my own hotel, and I just so wanted to do this. I was there for a few days. The kidney was a lot of tests. This was even more. The tests it was like literally, how many days was it? 2 full days or 3 days? 3 days, full days of testing, really head to toe to make sure you're healthy enough to do this. And I passed all the testing, and I matched for this person. And so we're ready to set a date. And then he backed out. My recipient backed out.
Wow. Why did he back out?
He didn't want to go to Cleveland. He wanted to find a donor in New York. He didn't want to take from a father of 9 because if God forbid something happened to me, he felt he couldn't live with himself. So he had all kinds of reasons. And I wasn't in touch with him, but I was in touch. Chaya Lipschitz put me in touch with his sister, and I'm literally begging his sister to get him to do this. And the Cleveland Clinic couldn't believe it. Like, we've never seen a donor. Usually it's the recipient who's begging for the transplant, not the donor.
Yeah.
But I wanted to experience this experience again. So he wouldn't do it. He backed out.
Wow.
By tremendous divine providence, there was an article in Ami magazine, I think it was, about Chaya Lipschitz, this kidney matchmaker. And somebody in a Chabad shliach in Connecticut, a Chabad shlucha in Connecticut, had read the article. And someone in their shul, the president of their shul's son, needed a liver. And so she reached out to Chaya Lipschitz. She says, I know you only do kidneys. I saw this magazine. But by any chance, do you know anyone who would donate a liver?
Oh, my. Wow.
And this was right after my recipient had backed out.
Wow.
So she said, actually, I do.
Wow.
And that's what happened. So she said, she had them call the Cleveland Clinic. So Adam, who was my liver recipient, he called the Cleveland Clinic, and that was a Friday, I think. And the Cleveland Clinic said, "Can you be here Monday to test to see if Rabbi Simon will match you?" And he flew there. He did all the testing. He matched me. I matched him, and he became my liver recipient. And so we set the date. I think it was December 23rd. Was it December 23rd, 2018? And I was just so thrilled that I would be able to save this man's life and be, again, this living example for my children and my community. And I could say, though, that when I announced this to my community, they weren't as supportive as the kidney. They felt like, Rabbi Simon, that's too much already. I mean, not everybody. Some people were supportive, but some people really were not and felt like that's too much and you're doing too much. But I really wanted to do it, and that's a riskier operation because that's not laparoscopic. That is a full open. Now they actually started doing it laparoscopically very recently, but in 2018 that was a full open operation.
So that was a longer recovery as well, I'm sure.
That was a massive recovery. Yeah, I would say comparing the two would be like comparing if my kidney donation was a cup of water. My liver donation was like the Atlantic Ocean, I would say, in terms of recovery, in terms of.
And did you know is there risks involved? I mean, did you feel like?
I mean, it was a more risky operation for sure.
Wow.
Because it's an open operation, so it's a much more extensive operation.
So,
But
what did you feel about that one?
I was very trepidatious. I was much more trepidatious about it. But there are two things. First of all, you could see the passion, you could hear the passion, you see what this meant to him.
Wow.
How could I say no? Like, I almost didn't have a choice. So it was with great trepidation and a lot of prayer, a lot of tefillah. And I have to say that the day of the surgery, I was concerned, how am I going to handle it? It's a long surgery. And I was worried, how is it going to handle all the hours? But I have to say that when the surgery was occurring, people literally, so many groups and people, my husband gives a Parsha class every Tuesday, and it goes out through WhatsApp. Many, many people listen to it all around the world. It's not just local. So everybody on the WhatsApp group knew that he was having surgery and was davening for him. And I have to say, I'm not a very spiritual, feely person. I try, I'm a wannabe, but I have to say that I literally felt the tefillos of the people around. There were people who got together, the regular Parsha class got together in somebody's home and said Tehillim, and people were texting me from the Kaisel that they're saying Tehillim, and I, Pashat, felt calm, really, like the tefillos of the world calmed me, and Baruch Hashem, the surgery was successful.
That's amazing. Yeah, it makes such a difference when you know so many people are there davening for you, praying for him. Wow, that's incredible.
And that was such an amazing experience. I met my liver recipient, for the first time. We had spoken over the phone, but I met him for the first time the day before the surgery in Cleveland. We met in the hospital. And when we met, he looked all I could say is just he looked extremely ill. Wow. He was extremely, extremely, extremely ill. And to today, he's as healthy as you and I. And he has 3 young kids. He has 2 kids in college and a child, I think, in 9th grade or 10th grade. And so he has young children, and he was dying, and he thought he's never going to see his children under the chuppah. He's not going to see his children graduate. He's not going to see his grandchildren. Because he had many false sort of hopes where they called him for a cadaver liver and ended up not being a fit. And he was so ill, he had almost given up hope. And then this just from this article in Ami magazine and this Chabad Shlucha seeing it and reaching out to Chaya Lipschitz and this happening, to see him today in such incredible
Are you still in touch with them, with both your donors?
Yes. Wow. I mean, they were total strangers before, but today they're both like brothers. That's how we feel. And yes,
we've been to weddings and bar mitzvahs, and it's amazing. Like, these are weddings that these fathers would not have been to, their children's weddings. Wow. And we were able to celebrate with them.
That's
so I would say, and I've said this many times, what I received was so much more than I gave. I'm so grateful to have been able to have this experience.
In what way? What did you receive? What do you feel you received?
Well, to be able, I mean, there's so much, but the gift of bringing somebody else their health and their life, to bring a father back to his children and a husband back to his wife and a grandfather back to his grandchildren, and that gift, seeing that happen and just being a small part of that, there's nothing greater than that. There's no greater gift than that. And then on top of that, my entire life is I live my life to be a source of light and inspiration to others. That's my life as a Chabad Shliach. And to have had both of these experiences, and both of them ended up going viral. If you Google my name, you see it's all over. It went everywhere on the internet. And to have so many other people be inspired. More people donated their livers from my story. I think it was like 4 or 5 people who I know of who donated their livers after reading my story and reaching out to me. And to be able to be that source of inspiration for others, that's the greatest gift. That's what I live for. So to actually have that come to fruition, that is the greatest blessing, one of the greatest blessings of my life. So I received that, to have that gift was just I feel like I received infinitely more than I gave. And I'm so grateful for having that experience, to be able to have done it. And I only wish I could do it again. I asked the Cleveland Clinic, what more can I
What
do?
else? Is there a third organ?
Well, they said, you're done, Rabbi Simon. Don't ask. They said, stop asking.
Oh, wow. So is your message to others that they should also be an organ donor? Like,
I mean, not necessarily, because it's not, organ donation isn't for everyone. Not everyone's able to do it. First of all, not everyone is physically able to do it. Not everyone is emotionally able to do it. But my message for everyone out there is that what we are all able to do is to extend ourselves beyond our comfort zone, to bring light, life, happiness, goodness, kindness to another. And that everyone is able to do. So that's really the message from my story. It's not necessarily, go out and donate an organ, but it really is go out and extend yourself beyond your comfort zone for another human being. That's really my message. And but for those who
fascinating, because that's what you really were doing before. I mean, as a Chabad shliach, you were out there trying to bring light and goodness and kindness and good deeds, and yet you didn't feel that that was enough for you. You wanted
I feel like we always have to stretch our comfort zone. We sort of get where we are, and we sort of settle in, and that's our comfort zone, and that's where we lie. And both in my shlichus and in my Chabad house and in my the activities that I do, I really do try to stretch myself beyond my comfort zone. I think that's what the Rebbe taught us, not to be satisfied with where we are spiritually, but to constantly strive to grow. So yeah, I was there, but I wanted to stretch my comfort zone, and it was the greatest blessing in my life that I did. I'm just so grateful, and to know that others were inspired, and that others both stretched themselves beyond, both in terms of the organ donations that happened from my story, and even the mitzvahs that happened, and those who weren't able to donate an organ or can't donate an organ, but still in the inspiration of my story stretch themselves to help another. That's what greater reward in life is that? That your life can be a source of inspiration to so many. Is there a greater reward in life? That's it. I mean, that's why we're here. And so yes, whatever I gave, I received infinitely more than I gave. I felt that, and I feel that to this day. And to this day, I still get phone calls from people who see my story on the internet and want to donate liver, kidney, whatever it may be, and want to hear the experience. And so if anybody's out there who is interested and wants to know more about it, they can always reach out to me. RabbiSimon@gmail.com is my email. And I'm happy to speak to anybody who is interested in maybe thinking about doing this, and giving them my experience.
Incredible.
If I could do it again,
yeah,
I would do it again tomorrow morning without thinking. Both kidney and liver. If I could do it again, I would do it again tomorrow.
Is there anything you learned from your experience that you would want to tell your previous self, like before your experience, something that you'd want to say to yourself?
I would say, that's a good question. I would say, again, don't be satisfied with whatever you've accomplished up to this point. Continue to strive and push yourself to do more. Again, because before my previous self, before I saw that email from the 12-year-old girl, it was never anything I ever thought of doing. But I would tell myself now, don't limit yourself on what you could do. With Hashem's help, you could do much more than you think you can. And now on the other side of both surgeries, literally, without exaggeration, I would never know I had either surgery. I would never even know. There's not a trace of an effect. And I live my life exactly as I lived before. Nothing in my life has changed. My body works in exactly the same way. I do the exact same activities. Literally, my diet is it. Nothing has changed in my life. And yeah, that's what I would tell myself. Never be satisfied. Continue to, and I tell myself that still to this day. Continue to stretch yourself beyond what you think you're capable of.
Wow, incredible. Nechama, any parting words or anything that you learned from this experience?
What can I say? Tracht gut wird sein gut, right? Even if you feel nervous about something, you're worried about something, think positive. It'll all work out.
Wow, you must have done a lot of positive thinking.
I did have to do
I
a
could
lot
just
of
feel
that.
what you must have been going through. I mean, your husband's passion is just so contagious, but at the same time, I'm sure there was so much fear, and it must have taken a lot on you to, as a mother of 9 children and him being your husband, to just keep encouraging him to go with what he felt was so right.
Well, I would say this, if I could just interrupt there. My wife is a real tzaddikus. No, she doesn't want me to say that, but that's the truth. And my wife has such incredible emunah and is such a source of strength for me and for our family that neither donation could have ever happened without her support, and without her tremendous emunah, and without her strength. And I'll tell you something, the recovery from the liver donation was an intense recovery. And they want to make sure, the hospital, that you have a caretaker there. And my wife was my caretaker. She was there by my side 24/7 in Cleveland. And I needed her. I could not have done that without her. And when you love somebody, I'm telling you right now, the strength that she had to be by my side and seeing me in pain and seeing that, that recovery, that was a much greater strength than anything that I did. Because it's easier to be in pain yourself than to see somebody you love in pain.
So
and I don't know that I could do what she did. I don't know that I have that strength. In fact, I think I don't have that strength. But my wife does have that strength, and she is the source of the blessings for our family and the blessings for everything that I've done. It is all in my wife's source and her merit.
But I will say this about emunah. You say you must have a lot of emunah. Well, we know that all of us Yid and all of us Jews are maminim b'nei maminim. We're all believers, the children of believers. But I really did have to work on my emunah. I had to work on my faith. It didn't come easily. And it was a test. It was a real test for me every day to continue to work on my faith.
Wow, you guys are such an inspiration, such an incredible inspiration. And may you go from strength to strength. Amen. Not with a third don't, not for a third but just continue in stretching yourself beyond your comfort zone in such beautiful ways, and impacting people with your kindness, with your goodness, with the light that you're bringing to this world. May you continue having tremendous success in all that you do. And thank you so much for inspiring us all and teaching us all how we can push ourselves just that little bit more.
This was our greatest pleasure. Thank you.
So
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. I'm just going to read some of the comments. Such kindness and true Avos Yisrael, absolutely. Extend outside our comfort zone for others. No words. I'm in awe. So am I. How wonderful, such a mitzvah. Someone who is in need of a kidney, they hope they find somebody. Wow. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, somebody in need of a kidney could reach out to my kidney matchmaker. It's kidneymitzvah.com, I think her website is, and you could, Chaya Lipschitz, and she dedicates her life to find kidney matches. So that would be a good place to start.
Wow, thank you. We have Rabbi Ephraim Simon and Achama Simon joining us tonight. True inspiration. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, may Hashem just shower you with all the blessings that you give to others.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you for joining. Thank you all for joining. Good night.